Are you fascinated by the world of cybersecurity, but often feel like being successful in the field is like climbing a massive, impenetrable wall? Like you need some kind of secret code or superhuman strength to even get your foot on that first foothold? Well, it's time to grab your gear and get ready to climb because you've tuned in to Scaling the Wall, the podcast that breaks down the cybersecurity journey into manageable steps. I'm your host, Will Brooks. Each week, I'll be your guide as we talk to the real people who are living and breathing cybersecurity every single day. We'll hear their stories, learn from their experiences, and gather those golden nuggets of wisdom they've picked up along the way. No jargon, no hype, just real talk about what it takes to build a successful career in this exciting field. So whether you're a student just starting out, a career changer looking for a new challenge, or a seasoned pro wanting to stay ahead of the game, listen in as we scale the wall of cybersecurity together.
Belinda is my middle name.
Okay.
It's hard for me to give up, even though it when I had gotten married previously to Mr. Beland.
It's so perfect.
It all of a sudden became like a tongue tie, but I knew very little of my dad, and I do remember he used to call me Belinda when I was a little boy. So it's just kind of hard for me to remove it. Right?
No, I don't think you should give it up at all. I think it rolls. It's perfect. I just always wondered because Belinda Beland or Beland it's close in writing, but I like it.
It is.
So we are talking today about a higher standard. I'm going to be honest. I could read this of what you wanted to talk about, but I'm curious in your own words. Let's just talk about this a little bit because I think it's...
Yeah, I'm trying to bring more awareness to the MSP industry around what we are doing in selecting swag that has digital connectivity when we're pushing at the conferences for our industry to be downloading apps that haven't been vetted through a security process, when we are bringing in vendors that may have a SaaS solution that, oh, by the way, if you look, it's owned by a Chinese company and it's priced right and we think our clients will love it, and we just go and deploy it without having any precaution. So I see a bunch of different areas, and my sensitivity to protecting our warfighter, understanding maybe it's a lot more visible to me what's happening with China and Russia and nation state adversaries. And, I just want to kind of talk through some of those different areas where I do think the MSP industry can make a difference and frankly should be thinking about this in a more thoughtful, measured approach.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I mean, maybe the most accessible example right now for a lot of people is the whole TikTok conversation, right? I mean, this isn't cybersecurity, but it's this kind of thing where people look at it and you see those divided camps. You have some people who say, oh, Chinese government can get into this. This is bad. You have other people like, it's not so bad. It's like they're not really, there's kind of, I don't know if it's a denial or if it's just not understanding what the connection point really means and what the significance is. And that's in a consumer social media app. So to take that to cybersecurity now and say, well, you've got, we're going to trust our EDR platform to be backed by a nation state threat actor who has consistently hacked our US government system. I mean, there seems to be probably not really wise to do that, but what have you seen, specifically, what are some of the, and I don't want to name any names or anything like that, but more
my personal experience with the pluggable swag, like one of the things I've taught for years is security awareness. And, we always say, don't plug something into your laptop without knowing exactly what it is. And the easy first lead off for this would be the swag, like one of those mini portable speakers that you can plug into your laptop, or it has the other connection to plug it into your cell phone. The USB keys that they're like shaped like a race car or something cute that's the logo of the vendor. a lot of these things come from, they're manufactured in China. So you special order them, they come from China, and you're encouraging, as you're handing them out, you're encouraging all of your customers or MSP peers or whoever that target audience is of yours to be plugging them in. I think even Robin's got a bunch of crap for this when she was, and I did say crap, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
When she used to do a rubber ducky campaign and she wanted people to plug in, she said MSPs take a rubber duck that's a USB drive, preload it with all of their marketing materials, and then mail this rubber duck to all of their prospects. And once the prospect plugs it in, they'll have access to like a video of them talking and all this. And this was back in 2016. And it only lasted, it had a short life because there were enough people that were like, whoa, aren't we telling our customers never plug in something that you don't know where it came from?
Yeah.
Don't take USB drives from conferences. So just as an industry, for us to be an easy one is be cognizant and aware, not to be ordering those types of devices to use as swags for yourself, and not to be grabbing them at vendor tables, maybe have a conversation with the vendor to make them aware.
I mean, that's so good. I mean, we were just at easy first start. Yeah, we were just at a conference last week, and I know I saw a couple of vendors handing out those little Bluetooth speakers. Probably bought on like not Bluetooth, those little USB speakers. Probably bought off like Temu or something. You could buy 500 of them for like $100 or something stupid. And it's just it's this kind of thing where it could very much be harmless, but you don't ever know. And like I
totally agree. It could very much be harmless, but are we checking?
Right. And how do you check?
Propagating and making it so common that no one ever thinks to check.
Right. I mean, how would you check it without submitting yourself to that own thing? And I mean, there's even the reality of like, you could buy a batch of 100 and only 2 or 3 of them could actually be a problem. You don't know. So you'd have to test every single one. Testing one does not make the whole batch good. And I think that's it's almost like we just kind of trust the harmlessness of things. I know for a while there was a lot of scare of like, if you go to an airport and there's a USB charger, don't plug it into your computer. Like, you don't know. And and people kind of laugh that off, but then they're giving away stuff that they've blatantly bought, on some foreign market, and they're just because it was cheap. Right. Yeah.
So we can't be perfect at it, but we can be cognizant, and where applicable, we can just reduce that risk.
Yeah.
And then the area of the applications, I caused more of a controversy than I thought it would by calling out, hey, all you vendors who are having conferences and insisting that everyone download an app if they want access to the live agenda, to the decks that the presenters are sharing, to contests that are happening, things like that. I started to get more and more vocal about it because it was becoming more and more of a mandate instead of an option. There was several conferences where they didn't offer a web version, so that if you have and the funny thing about this is I was interviewed by someone in our industry, and they were like, oh, boo-hoo, she can't access the agenda, which first of all was, let's just ignore the way that was approached. But again, going back to security awareness training, since 2014, I have taught all of my customers, don't install an app on your mobile device unless you absolutely have to use it. You don't know where the app came from. You don't know what it is intending to do in the background. A lot of people forget to uninstall them, so they get old or unsupported code. There's a bunch of different reasons, right? Just why do we have to use an app to access the things at an event, where if we have just cell service or Wi-Fi on our mobile device and we can pull it up on a website, the same information is there. And that was the point I was making. And if you're going to be a conference that says, yes, we're offering this app, I was asking, well, could we please have any of the security vendors out there that have these huge security research teams just look at the platform and validate that it's safe?
Yeah.
So,
I think, hold on a second, Joy. I think John might have stopped the recording. I don't know why. No, it's showing as,
yeah,
are you sure?
I can see it on mine.
Oh, okay. Mine, it's not showing as long as it's running, that's good. We can just cut this part out. Mine is showing it stopped, but as long as we're good. Cool. So no, that's fantastic. So Joy, I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. So with the app situation, right? Security awareness training, we talk a lot in the industry now about like privileged access management, right? And even the realities of, and we kind of talked about this on the previous episode, almost practicing what you preach, right? So is your MSP, if you're going to your clients, you're saying, hey, you can't install Spotify on your system without my consent, right? I'm going to have to install that for you. And you run into like this frustration from the MSP. Oh, sometimes it's annoying, but yeah, you know what? I'm going to push that on my clients. I want that to be the case. But then me at my MSP, all of my employees, because we're cybersecurity experts, can install whatever we want on our system. Like that to me is hypocrisy, which frustrates me. But then on top of that, then you have these cybersecurity conferences that are meant to be like the cutting edge, the leading edge of cybersecurity. And, you know, they talk about numbers and they talk about the industry and the rah-rah and get you really amped up. But then at the same time, one of the main practices of the conference is to say, download this app and install it on your system. And you're sending people from your MSP to this conference who, if you're following the rules, can't install that app on their system, right? Can't install that app on their phone.
Exactly. And I can't. I don't have the ability to install apps on my phone. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Even if I had the option to, I don't. So unless it's critical to my day-to-day job. And I'm sorry, but a conference agenda is not critical to my day-to-day job. So here's the thing. It's not being incentivized the right way. What I would love to see is ConnectWise or ThreatLocker or Datto or Kaseya. I'd like to have them do a conference registration and then have a separate kind of a trust mark, validated check that we have reviewed the security of our conference app, and this is the results. And clearly stating these are the risks if you choose to install it. If there are no risks, then show what you did to validate that there's no risk, and also provide a web version of that. And I would have way more respect for any of those vendors if they were the first one to come out and say, we're making sure we're practicing what we're preaching. We understand you, MSPs, are an attack vector. We certainly, as your vendor, do not want to be the cause of you having something come into your phones or your systems because we didn't properly vet it, because the marketing team at all of those different conferences, it's the marketing team that selects the app. You can bet not one security professional is actually validated if it's safe.
Yeah. So here's a question.
At their organization.
Right. Along those lines, right? I mean, you talked about how they don't update the website. They'll if you want live agenda updates, you need to download the app, right? And the website, pretty much after the conference starts, the website doesn't get touched anymore, right? And my thought, I mean, we live in this really simple world where people can create web apps from their websites right onto. So if someone wants to add the link to the website onto their home screen because they have the access to do it, why don't we make that the norm, right? Where you have people who can't, rather than say, hey, you have to download this entire third-party app that we don't know anything about, other than it was selected, like you said, by the marketing team who may or may not have a cybersecurity bone in their body. I think it's a fair ask to simply say, hey, keep the website live, like update that normally, and then we can just go to that. I mean, what's so hard about that? I don't understand the pushback. If anything, it probably costs less money to use an app, at least in my mind. But it costs less money to use the website than to use the app. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It does. And unless they may not have the same kind of capabilities, but I want them to think about being the ones leading the way, doing it the right way, and not forcing something without thought. Yeah, just give an educated choice. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, as someone who's done web design and things like that, maybe you don't have someone on your team who can who maybe can do HTML or JavaScript programming and that level of things. But most websites today, or most website creators today, have the ability to, you can really update things really easily. I mean, you don't need an app
It's a matter, yeah. I mean, a lot of those Cvent, and I don't even know all the names, but a lot of those offer both a web agenda live thing and an app. And so it's probably more money to do the web as well, to click that button. But first, validate security on both. Second, give your conference attendees a choice. That's all I ask.
I don't know about you. So cybersecurity aside, which I know we can never push cybersecurity aside because it's our industry, but cybersecurity aside, I don't want to download another app to my phone. And I'll tell you why. Because whenever I download an app to my phone and then stop using it like 2 days later, I never actually go and delete it. So now there's just this app sitting on my phone that I forgot about because it's buried by all these other apps that I have to download. And it just I don't know. It just seems like another thing. I'll be honest. I've been going to conferences now for a little over 2 years. I have never once downloaded the app for these conferences. It's probably partially because I'm a vendor and I'm not going to every single session. But at the same time, it's like, I go on the website if I need to look up the agenda, and I kind of just go from there. I go on the website when I see the talks I want to go to. Like, I don't need to pull up an app for all that information. You can navigate these conference halls pretty easily. So I don't know. I am totally in favor of what you're talking about, though, to bring this full circle to talk about, hey, practice what you preach, right? What are the good cybersecurity best practices? And that should include us in the industry.
So can we get a little spicy?
Yeah, please.
As if that wasn't going to be spicy enough, my new cause that I want to try to bring awareness to and hopefully influence, and I'm getting some support in how I can roll out these conversations, is for us also to be aware with the United States MSP industry what applications we are leveraging as MSPs for both our own environments and for our customers that are actually made in adversary nations. So there are vendors out there that are wholly owned Chinese companies, right? I'm not going to say names, but they actually are making a huge play in the MSP industry, trying to get in there, especially in the areas of AI. Install our agent on your MSP customers' environments, and they're coming in. It's going to be cost effective. It has a lot of marketing dollars behind it. They want to be able to have their software deployed through MSPs on tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of small businesses.
Wow.
It's just starting now. We have no watchdogs on just the MSP industry in general to say, wait a minute, we understand capitalism. We understand that we're not trying to, like, say, only buy in the United States. That wouldn't be realistic at all. But are we at least watching and measuring the approach that they are taking, trying to get into the MSP, SMB market? It's worth having visibility into.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just thinking about that.
Because they're not going to have a name like Chinese owned company. They're going to have a name like, Power Platform AI. I just made that up. If that actually is a company, forgive me. I'm not trying to cause any lawsuits here. That's going to be like, you have to actually do some investigation to see, well, who actually is programming this? Where does it come from? Who owns it? And what is it really doing on my computers or my network?
Yeah. There's
we actually should be paying attention to that.
Yeah. And there's like two sides to this. I mean, I look at, John looked it up. Thanks, John. There's no powerplatform.ai, Joy, so you're in the clear. So, I was thinking about that when we were at PAX 8 last week. They one of the keynotes got up there and was just talking about the cybersecurity industry as a whole from a financial point. And China is the second leading nation behind the U.S. in revenue from the cybersecurity industry. So on some level, you have to imagine they're creating these I'll call them vendor platforms, that they're soliciting not just in China. I mean, it has to be on the global market, but then they're hiding it behind some fancy name, right? Like you said. And and I don't know if someone look at this and say, oh, well, Joy, you're just being paranoid. Like, is that the common response?
Of course they will. Of course they
will. But why?
Will.
Why is that the common response?
Because I think, first of all, people don't understand the threat that adversary nations impose upon us, and what the long tail effect is of something being installed that's controlled by one of those nation states, whether it is doing anything nefarious upon implementation or it simply has the capability to down the line. We're not looking at what is that real risk profile for those. And I understand price sensitivity. I understand wanting to have the latest and greatest, but even on the vendor floor, I'd like to walk around and know that no Chinese sponsored companies are on the United States MSP vendor floors. I personally think that, you know what, we have to actually be realistic about this and make informed decisions, but nobody's watching it that I know of right now. No one has their finger on that pulse. And I think that it needs to at least start to be a discussion amongst the people. And I did a great call this morning with somebody that's like, there's 100 most influential people in the MSP industry. And those are conversations one-on-one that I'm willing to take on to say, how do we bring awareness to it? Let's make informed decisions at least.
Yeah. And are the vendors even aware?
That's my thing.
Are the vendors, the people who are representing that particular product at the conference, are they even aware that it's Chinese-backed companies? I wonder.
They're not. The people who are holding the conference are selling them booth space. The people who are experts in navigating the MSP channel are selling them the playbooks, helping them get into the channel, right? There's marketing support. There's, you name it. There's, with enough money, any vendor, Chinese or not, can get a huge booth on that vendor floor and create a huge stir of buzz and talk, and everybody wants to install a demo and try it, right?
Yep.
I'm just saying, can we please make sure that we're setting up some kind of a watch group and that we have knowledge about these activities?
It kind of begs the question too, when I think about it, why? And it sounds like weird, but when I look at the majority of things in our country that are imported from China, like made in China, right? You look at I have this little fidget spinner. It's probably made in China, right? I mean, that's the reality. But why a cybersecurity platform? I mean, that's something where we have fantastic coders in this country. We have fantastic minds and developers and cybersecurity oriented people that, why are we allowing a potential threat actor product to be right? So, but why? I mean, all this stuff, we just talked earlier about CMMC, right? So you literally have government-oriented programs saying, hey, you need, for the defense industrial base, you need to be this level of secure. But then now do we have MSPs who are touting themselves as GRC related MSPs, and then they're potentially installing a Chinese backed vendor software on their client's machine and saying this is going to get you compliant?
All I know is think about what happened with SolarWinds, Kaseya, ConnectWise. All the major ones have had some kind of a massive breach that allowed the threat actor to go through an MSP and have mass destruction to multiple clients, right?
Yeah.
They know MSPs are a great attack vector. And what better way for them to infiltrate than to come out with the latest and greatest tool? It doesn't even have to be a security tool, Will. It could be, any kind of a portal for them to log into, checking warranties on devices, an RMM tool. It could be any kind of a tool that an MSP might leverage. A financial QuickBooks accounting type kind of a thing is if it's deployed on an MSP environment and potentially to customer environments, they've got their attack vector.
Yeah.
Like if I was the bad guy, that's how I would think about it. I'd be all in. I'm going to give them a check for $2 million and they're going to shepherd my way into the MSP industry, roll out the red carpet, make sure that I get a good booth space, make sure that my marketing materials are killer, make sure we have the right people doing the demos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I would do it.
I mean, it makes sense, especially if you can get people in there who don't, and again, at the risk of sounding paranoid, you could get anyone in there who doesn't even know that they're representing a threat actor. It's just they got hired for a job and they needed a job, and now they have to go to these conferences and talk about their product. So they have to learn about their product and they have to talk about it without even recognizing or realizing. And that, I think, I guess it's just the irony for me, and it's a problem, is we're so heavily focused on protecting the client's network from like the ransomware threat actor who works for some ransomware gang, that we're not actually thinking, oh wait, there are actual countries who have a history of cyber attacks that are not our friends right now, and I think that's just, it kind of just slips the mind.
Wares.
Yeah, and it just slips the mind, and people look at it and say, it's not that big of a deal. And that's the part that I think is probably the most, I don't know, stressful for, like, I never had TikTok to begin with. If we were to go back to that, right? I never once downloaded it. And I don't think it even had to do with China. I just hate social media. But when this whole thing blew up, I was like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Yet I saw so many people just kind of rolling their eyes and being like, oh, but I really like the content. It's so good. And it's like, and that shouldn't matter. Why can't we see past that?
Yeah. Agreed. I want us to just care more.
Yeah.
I want us to care more about the United States, about our own intellectual property, about our businesses, about the future livelihood of our children and our grandchildren. I think that we need to think of long-term repercussions of not taking a measured approach to these issues. Yeah,
and that's honestly, if I've learned anything, that is very difficult for a lot of people to see past the next week. It's when I was working in financial advising, we always had the conversation that there's really two kinds of money. There's two kinds of people who handle their money, and there's the spenders who just want to, as soon as they make money, they want to spend it. And then there's the people who are willing to set aside money every paycheck towards retirement, right? And I think it's the same way when we think about a lot of things, that we're just not really thinking about what it's going to look like 100 days from now, 300 days from now, 10 years from now. We're really just thinking about, how's this going to impact my business right now and today? And that's where I see some of this temptation just falling right in. The immediate satisfaction of, oh, I can install this on all my clients' endpoints immediately.
Right.
Yeah. So, Joy, this has been so good. I know we did this last episode. Where can people hear about more about you? And if they're getting on this bandwagon saying, "Wow, Joy's right. I really like what she had to share here." Where can they get on your level?
Well, I should probably say the opinions I've expressed in this episode are my own, largely shared with Summit 7, but I'm not speaking on behalf of Summit 7.
Sure.
If you want information about Summit 7, they're at summit7.us is the website. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Joy Beland on LinkedIn. So feel free to message me, connect. I always try to answer those and help people out when I can, even if it's just to give me a hell yeah, keep going, or I think you're being ridiculous. I'd like to hear people's point of view on it.
Scaling the Wall is brought to you by FifthWall Solutions, a cyber insurance company that partners directly with MSPs to make cyber insurance more accessible to their clients than ever. Check us out at fifthwallsolutions.com/MSP. If you like what you heard today, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or in the Spotify app, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.